Today's gonna be a personal episode. Today I'm covering two games, Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty World War II. I'm playing these games together, not because of the fact that one takes place during the First World War and the other one during the Second. No, I'm playing them together because both these games happen to be very essential to where I am today as a gamer. I grew up playing a lot of games, maybe too many, but then I dropped gaming when I went to high school and was skipping out on the 8th generation. Probably for the best, my dumbass would have definitely bought a Wii U. But then one day in early 2017, a coworker of mine came to my house with a PS4 he bought for his nephew and wanted to test out and see if it works. The games he bought to test it out were Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, Grand Theft Auto 5, and Battlefield 1. GTA 5 was GTA 5, just sex and explosions, but when we played Battlefield 1 I was blown away with how good it looked. It was pretty fun to play too, and not only did we ignore Infinite Warfare, but it also sparked my interest to get a PlayStation 4. I eventually got it gifted to me, and when it came time to fully play Battlefield 1, I ended up doing that 4 years later, which happens to be today. Yeah, I know, I'm talking highly about a game I played once for an hour years ago, but damn it, that first hour was magical. The campaign starts by just throwing you into the middle of an intense battlefield. I don't know who I am, I don't know where I am, all I know is that I must kill. Unlike other games that lean you into the experience, this one barely lets you get comfortable. There is no mission here, just kill as much as you can before you die and then get transferred to the next soldier and continue killing. This is definitely one of the best openings for a first-person shooter I've ever played. Sadly though, this is also the peak of the campaign. Oh no. So the Battlefield 1 campaign consists of 5 mini-campaigns called War Stories, where you control different characters throughout different points of the war. In Through Mud and Blood, we assume the role of a British tank driver named Edwards and his fellow comrades as they try to plow a tank through enemy territory. It's basically a World War I version of the film Fury. Hey, I feel pretty good about making that comparison. I'm gonna see if I can do that with the rest of the game. So you're a tank, and at first it feels awesome being a giant machine of death blowing up buildings, but then the usual problems with tanks sets in. The raw power compromises mobility, and moving around is janky. Plus, what usually happens whenever you drive a tank, oh yeah, you're almost guaranteed to go up against other tanks, and from there it's either standing still and launching missiles at each other until one of you goes kablooey, or just slowly maneuvering around buildings to flank the enemy tanks. I'm not a fan of tanks. The only game where I actually enjoyed tank-on-tank violence was Wii Play. There are points where you leave the tank and have to use stealth to get around. To that I said, nah, I want some action. I only used stealth when tanks were involved because f*** having to fight them. You'd think that the stealth section would be over once the mission concluded, but no, your tank breaks down, you need to find spare parts in a town that's in German territory by once again using stealth. Friends in High Places follows American pilot Blackburn, and this campaign has a lot of flying in it. Which is not a bad thing. I actually like the aerial combat in Battlefield. Plus, the final sequence when you're defending London from a German air raid and end up crashing into a Zeppelin is pretty sweet. Midway through the campaign, your plane crashes and you have to find your way back to the Allies, and you do this by using stealth. And god, didn't I just do this one campaign and go, why am I using stealth again? Moving on to Nothing Is Written, here we control Zara, who is cooperating with Lawrence of Arabia trying to take down an Ottoman death train. I'm gonna say Mad Max Fury Road. How do we do this? Well, we do this by sneaking, and more sneaking. This campaign ends with what I want to call a boss battle against a train, where you run to one turret, launch at it before it sets its sight at you, and then run to another turret. Next up is the Iron Italian. It tells us about an Italian soldier who wears a suit of armor. In the suit of armor, you're a bullet sponge killing machine, but then halfway through he loses his armor and goes on a quest to find his brother. Here I get worried that we're about to do some more stealth missions, but instead Lorenzo's actually even more of a killing machine. This was definitely my favorite war story because it was very action-packed. There was the first half with the suit and the second half without the suit. No middle section of stealth to dull it. He's not dependent on the suit to be a hero, which reminds me that I forgot to reference a movie, so I'm going with Iron Man. But sadly though, it was also the shortest campaign. And lastly we have The Runner. Here we follow a badass Australian, and you know he's a badass Australian because he's Australian and he has this hat. Suddenly he's taking care of this youngling, which at first he wasn't a fan of, but eventually grows fond of the boy and becomes his teacher and protector. I got some here. Brother Bear. This campaign is filled with some good action sequences, but it also has 2 back and forth fetch quests, one of them on horseback. Why? It ends with the Aussie going on a solo suicide mission and starts with stealth, to which I audibly groan. See, not only is it just too many stealth sequences at this point, but it's also dumb because it's so hard to believe that the enemy can be this oblivious. I mean, look at this single sequence where I'm walking around in broad daylight in the wide open hitting people with shovels and somehow not getting seen. It happens so often in the game that it honestly makes me believe that in 1910s peripheral vision wasn't invented yet. Now, when you complete all the campaigns, you get a little film reel showing what you just went through and saying that the war is not something that will ever get forgotten. Which is a bit silly. I know World War I gets overshadowed by its sequel, but at no point will someone ever go, whoa, there was a First World War? Back on track, there is no final mission. It just ends, which is a bit flat, really. What was I expecting? I don't know, maybe a sunrise sunset deal with the opening battle where we were swapping characters in a losing battle. But now that we played through the war stories and learned how to properly pilot a plane, operate a tank, fight in a suit of armor, sneak around, and frolic on a horse, we could bring these characters back together for a victorious final battle. Which I know isn't realistic as these stories are set in different parts of the world and at different times, but listen, it's better than what we got. But even then, looking back, playing through the campaign was a bit disappointing. Don't get me wrong, when we were in a full-fledged battle, the game is awesome to play and you get that fun you usually do from playing a high-action first-person shooter. But the game just had too many of these stealth sequences that really dulled the experience. Listen, stealth has its place, it does, but too much of it can get exhausting. I'll leave the Italian and desert campaigns alone, but the flying campaign could have borrowed the page from one shot, one kill when carrying your ally back to camp. You know, carry them as far as you can until you get surrounded, put them in a safe place to cover you while you do the rest. That would have been cool here instead of just walking in a straight line. The tank campaign was half tank combat, half sneaking around, and it could have definitely shed some fat there. And maybe not having the Australian badass skipping around on a horsey. Oh man, I don't want to feel this way about you, Battlefield 1. To a game which I put as much emphasis on its importance, I don't want it to be too harsh and say that it's overhyped. I have a soft spot, so I'm just gonna say it could have been better. Oh man, what am I thinking? Of course, it's probably the multiplayer that gets everyone to get their juice blender over this game. Thing is, I'm not a fan of multiplayer, but I was willing to give it a shot, but I just couldn't connect. Rather than be pissed off about it, I just took it as a sign from my lord that it'd just be a waste of time for me. It probably won't change my opinion, so I should just move on. Call of Duty World War II came out 1 year after Battlefield 1. How would I describe this game? I mean, just look at the title. It's Call of Duty. It's World War II. Early days Call of Duty were all set in World War II, but after Modern Warfare, the franchise spent the next 10 years focused on modern and futuristic shooters. With one exception, of course. So it's cool to see them go back to World War II, and go back they did, with the first mission starting things off with a bang as we are in D-Day storming the beaches of Normandy. Bullets flying everywhere, action all around. This is another awesome way to start a campaign. Now, World War II follows Daniels, and we follow his journey as the Americans plow through Europe to liberate France and invade Berlin. One thing I'm noticing about the gameplay is that you have a health bar, and each member of your squad supplies you with different assists, whether it's health, ammo, grenades, or a UAV. Which is actually pretty interesting because I always remember Call of Duty being the franchise where you eat bullets, hide behind a milk crate till you get your health back, and eat more bullets. And Battlefield being the one where you have a health bar and depend on teammates for supplies. Now here we seem to have a switch around as Battlefield 1 had regenerating health and Call of Duty is the one with the health bar. This actually makes things interesting as if you burn through health or ammo, you have to locate the squad member who has the stash and get it from them without getting shot at. It also makes you more attentive as to which squad members are with you on certain missions. For example, if your best buddy Zussman, who supplies first aid kits, isn't with you on missions, then you become more dependent on first aid kits that are just lying around, and if you can't find any, then you have to play a bit more carefully so you don't burn through health. When we reach a point in the story where Zussman gets kidnapped by the Nazis and Daniels goes after him wildly, I feel like I was one with Daniels, desperately trying to get the man back. I mean, sure, for Daniels it was about getting his war best buddy back, but for me it was more about, fuck man, that's my doctor, I need him. Overall, the campaign is really great and action-packed. It wasn't plagued by an overabundance of stealth sections that you sneaking around the enemies trying not to fart too loud. I need to talk about the Liberation mission. Now there was a section where you play as a lady named Rousseau and sneak into a German garrison in Paris and needed to find your inside man, execute the man who killed your family, and plant some explosives. The first time I played this, it was intense remembering your information and lying your way through the Nazis to make sure your cover isn't blown. I wouldn't really describe this as stealth and more like undercover. But anyway, that's only half the mission. As the second half, we are back to controlling Daniels and liberating France from Nazi control, and probably one of the best missions in Call of Duty history. The action, the visuals, the storytelling were all on point. I really didn't think the game could top that D-Day opening in epic cinematic action, but it did. There was a tank section, and what happens with tank sections? Yep. Oh man, I completely forgot about this flying section until I saw the footage. If there is something negative I do have to say about the campaign, it's the ending. Now the final mission is epic, but there wasn't any satisfying finish. I reached the tunnel and suddenly it was over. There was an epilogue showing the squad searching for the captured Zussman in the concentration camp, and rather than the grim ending which would have been fine, the game really stretched believability as we managed to save solo survival Zussman at the last possible second in the woods. Other than that, Call of Duty World War II tells a great story, the squad mates are likable, and you enjoy the journey through with them. It has a lot of cool memorable moments, and the gameplay was fun throughout. So yeah, let's just make that my quote. Oh fine, I'll give multiplayer a shot. I suck at it. Now I'm forgetting to mention one thing, the importance this game has to me as a gamer. So I get a PS4 because of Battlefield 1 and didn't end up playing Battlefield 1. When World War II came out, I played it a week after it released and never really touched it after. But come the start of 2020 when the world went down, I was at home and it was time to play something with my free time. I looked at my game list and at that point God of War 3 was played to death, Friday the 13th didn't work, Mortal Kombat I only played with friends, and I had no idea what I was doing with Overwatch. Call of Duty World War II was the only option, so when I went to play it, it first needed a massive update after not being touched for 2 years. Oh, Call of Duty, I fucking hate you. So while that was happening, I took a quick trip to Best Buy, and that was when I bought Legendary Fishing and started this video making hobby, and made me revisit my old love for gaming and rebuild my own collection. These two games played a role in the timeline to where I am right now, and I'm thankful for that. But then again, considering that all the money that went into this, actually f*** these games.